This is Red Hot Reds Live. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Strauss.
Welcome to the show. This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. I'm Roger. That's Ricky. It is Sunday, 8 p.m. You know what that means? It's Red Hot Reds Live on April 13th, 2025. And Ricky, before we get all into it, how was your week going so far?
Good, man. We got some Reds wins. It's always a good thing. We're, I think, 5 out of the last 6 we've won. So I'll take it. Let's go. And a sweep.
Yeah, what a difference a week makes, because I think we were all depressed this time last Sunday. Well, 2 more series, and we got a totally different look on life. Perspective, look at life, whatever the phrase is. But we are Red Hot Reds Live, and we are presented by Ohio Sports Talk. We are available on YouTube. Hopefully you're watching. We appreciate you if you've tuned in before. We're going to be going live every Sunday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. We're also streaming to Facebook, Twitter, X on Ohio Sports Talk, and I think Ricky's personal Twitter as well, and the Red Hot Reds podcast feed. We also are on Instagram. And make sure that you follow us on the podcast platforms of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. So this would be, a special time, for Reds and all that. And it's a special time because, Ricky, I think we got breaking news. We have a sponsor. Can you believe? We have a sponsor. We have W Energy. And W Energy, please go to W.GG to get the only sugar-free focused energy drink that's out there. You can use promo code REDHOT10 as you see on the screen. So please support us, those guys that support us. These sponsors, it's great to be in partnership with them. We'll be, plugging their stuff throughout the year and all that. But the link will also be in the description. The promo code REDHOT10 to get 10% off any order at W.GG. And Ricky, man, like I said, what a difference a week makes. I appreciate you getting this new sponsor for us. Appreciate all the things you pull the strings behind the show as well. Wins, I think is the thing that I typed into our spreadsheet. Is we went 2-5 last week, right? Depressing. Lost 2 series to the dreadful, division rival Brewers, and lost to actually a pretty good team in the Texas Rangers. But this week we got the Giants, a 2 out of 3 showing. Unfortunately, a little slip up on Game 3, that getaway game where we had the lead 5-1 or 6-1, and ended up losing in extra innings. But they got the job done this weekend against the Pirates to win all 3 games, to go 5-1 on the week. Total flip of the script. Now we're at 500 and 8-8, and the outlook is totally different. I think if you're a Reds fan, you're loving life. You're now thinking that we're going to be competitive throughout the season, and all those good things with some great pitching performances, some timely hitting. So, what were some of your takeaways, Ricky, so far or this week?
Yeah, it's awesome. Today, Hunter Green, best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. I'll stand on it. I'll say it. Number 1. Brady Singer, that's a good trade. I'm really happy with that trade. And Ellie, it's all Ellie De La Cruz. That's it.
Yeah, shout out Jamer Candelario as well on Friday night, getting that big home run. Was it 3-run bomb, I think, on Friday night?
Yes.
That was pretty big, especially because there's a lot of Jamer haters out there, and he's a notorious slow starter. So we like to think that he's going to get his hitting going now. Hopefully, now that he's kind of, whether or not because he's got the big contract, he's going to be in the lineup, or because he's that 10-year vet, or because he's just a guy that's a switch hitter that can be valuable. He's going to be probably in the lineup more times than not, because I think Tito has kind of a set way of going about things, and I think he probably puts a lot of faith in guys that have done it, guys that are established veterans, or at least guys that are, proven themselves on some level. And we'll probably get to Espinal as well further in the show. But yeah, Espinal, I think, qualifies as one of those guys as well. But yeah, I mean, even though the 5-1's great, right? And beating the Giants in a series in San Francisco is pretty impressive. The Pirates, if I was Elliot Rearing, I would say for the Pirates, the 2025 season is over. It is over. They have Skeens. They have Mitch Keller that will probably pitch, half of his outings dominantly, but they got nothing really. But I guess at the same time, it's good that we didn't slip up against a pretty bad Pirates team. You know what I mean? I got old man McCutchen beating out, dribblers to shortstop to Ellie to kind of be their offense, and that's, we know bad offense in Cincinnati. We can see that, but they have even worse offense. So, any takeaways? Any more takeaways from those two series?
No. I guess one thing would be Ian Jabot. Just takeaway opening day. He's been a really solid reliever. I'm really happy about him. He gets a lot of hate online. Maybe deservedly so for opening day, but what can you do?
Yeah, I think Tito is really getting to know his bullpen fully, or at least know which guys to go to in what situation. Obviously, the Jabot closer situation, that chapter is firmly closed, and Emilio Pagan has been great, to say the least. So 4 saves on the year, and I think 0 ERA, or it's close to nothing ERA. So he's been fantastic. Tony Santillan been great out of the bullpen, and a guy that you're a big fan of, Ricky, Ashcraft has been great, and we'll touch on him probably a little bit more later. So, I think we finally kind of have the bullpen down. Taylor Rogers had that bad outing on the getaway day for San Francisco, so hopefully you'd like to think that's going to be few and far between for him. But other than that, we haven't seen too much of Sam Moll. We haven't seen too much of who's the other guy I was thinking about the other day. Well, I like to think Tito has
Suter.
Brent's, yeah, not much Brent Suter lately, but if you're getting W's, you're getting scoreless innings out of the bullpen. I think Tito has gotten a flow of which guys he knows to go to when. That's positive, right? Going into mid-April.
Yeah, it's what you want, and I think we'll probably touch on it later, but. When Diaz comes back, I think it's going to be an easier choice to the option than what we might think. I think it could be between. I think Sam Moll is probably the easiest option to choose from, honestly.
Yeah, there was that report in spring training that Ashcraft and Moll didn't come in great shape, and that didn't necessarily garner much affection from Tito and whatnot. And I think he's been preaching this accountability stuff, and there probably are some examples of where, Francona could be a little bit tougher on some guys. And I think we'll talk about Will Benson also in a segment coming up. But, obviously there's probably some accountability things going on there with him. But if anything, I like to think that Francona is starting to get to know his guys, getting to know his roster, knowing exactly in what situations he needs to deploy. Not just the bullpen, but also hitters in the lineups and whatnot. There was a lot of issues with, batting Blake Dunn and Espinal in the 2-hole. But now and I'm not saying Blake Dunn and Espinal are setting the world on fire, but Espinal's been pretty good. Blake Dunn's been serviceable, average at worst. I don't know. Is the manager figuring it out, or are the guys just starting to play up to the back of their baseball card, as they say?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I like. I'm a big Espinal fan. I think just his ability to put the bat on the ball is really the biggest reason why he's in 2-hole. Yeah, and Blake Dunn, he's got sneaky power for his his abilities, and I think if McLean's not in the lineup, I'm okay with those guys because. Who else is going to bat in front of Ellie to give you some kind of comfort level? That's the problem with how bad this offense has been. It's starting to heat up. We're starting to see some home runs and scoring more runs this week than we have last week. So we'll take it. And, yeah, I just think the offense needs to figure it out. And with our pitching staff, if our offense could figure it out, we're dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out. I'm starting to see some comments come through the chat. I'm seeing Doug's in there. Shout out to Doug and Ohio Sports Talk. Carrie Reinhardt, great to see you. Sir Boy Wonder in the chat. He's got some strong already to fund the platoon. I think that might be a shot, against the David Bell era a little bit. But thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We're going live every Sunday at 8 to recap the week. We've got lots of talking points to go over, and we really appreciate that you guys are here to share that with us, to check it out. And Sir Boy, he's got defund the analytics.
I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it with Clay Snowden. Shout out to Clay Snowden. We had an interview with him this past week. Came out, I think, Thursday. We were talking about that. Like, maybe Tito has a little bit more free reign to not necessarily go with the analytics. Like, unlike David Bell, seemed to be kind of chained to that line of thinking, or at least that way of managing, right? So at least, at least we know that we got a manager that's going to stand on his convictions and go after it. It might blow up like the Jabot situation, or like we could have a situation where we're right in there till late September competing. So that'd be obviously the best case scenario for us. But yeah. All right. Transitioning, we kind of, even though we've got those 5 wins, the one thing that was kind of a little bit not really concerning, it's still April, and the Reds are notorious slow starters, and they have a bunch of guys that are slow starters. The offense seemed to be still a bit slower, just getting the job done. For example, just yesterday, the Reds scored 5 runs on 4 hits. You got the job done with the grand slam with Ellie, and we'll talk more about that later, because yours truly and Ricky were there in person to witness that victory, and it was great to say the least. But it's still slow going so far in this early season, right? Like we said about the Pirates. I think you were telling me it was like the 30th ranked offense, and we're just 26th, 27th, something like that. So it's like, I don't know. The offense is chugging along enough to get those 5 wins this week, but let's I don't know. What are your thoughts on the offense?
Yeah, I think we're getting better. I think we are heating up. I like Carrie's comment here. What's your thoughts when the boys come up? Who goes down? I think it's looking like it's probably going to be Marte, and I've heard rumblings of Encarnacion Strand being demoted, and that would activate McLean and Hayes, which I'm okay with. Marte has options. He's looked good, but he's not, setting the world on fire. And I'm a huge Marte fan. And pitching wise, I think when Diaz comes back, I think Mole is probably the one that gets sent down. Or if they go bold, maybe they DFA Barlow, or Rogers. I doubt that, but I think Mole is probably the odd man out. He's got options. But going back to the offense, it's good to see, especially when Ellie's hitting the ball out of the ballpark, especially right-handed. That's awesome. And Candelario, he's a notorious slow starter, but I think he's doing better this year than he was last year, which isn't saying a lot, but it's what you want to see. And I think Francona, and people don't like it, but I think him having a consistent lineup day in and day out gets guys in a rhythm. You're not constantly changing. I think that's like how do you want to say it? It's almost like accountability without holding guys accountable. It's having guys ready to go every single day. And if you're not going to perform and you have options, you're going to get demoted.
Yeah, and that might be the rationale, the thought process behind the Benson situation, which we'll touch on a little bit later in the next segment or so. But it should be that way, right? In a way, like, we should be keeping these guys accountable. If they're not producing on the major league level, that's what the minors are for, figuring out your swing, figuring out your defense. And I will say, I'll give that credit, like watching Marte in person and watching him this weekend, his defense was great. Like that was the one thing that was, average to below average the last 2 seasons he's played is his defense and especially his throwing from third. We touched on it in past episodes about him working with Derek Johnson to fix his throwing motion from third to first. And I mean, so far so good. Obviously, it's really, really small sample size for Marte. I really hope that they kind of keep him up. Lux seems to kind of be settling in the outfield, but with the addition of Hayes, I don't know. You're right. It becomes kind of a crowded situation, and there's going to be somebody that's going to be odd man out. And CES, seeing him not play a lot this weekend, his production has not been great. He could be that guy that's sent down. I could very well see that. Also with Mole, I agree with you there as well. Like Mole, we haven't seen him in a while, and there was that report that he was kind of out of shape. So maybe there's some accountability in that respect too. But I don't know. It's a good question. I like to think that like we're just repeating myself again. Like Tito's starting to figure these guys out, knows what they're capable of, and is going to hold them to that standard.
Yeah, and some people think that CES is untouchable, but he's not. If you're not going to hit, you go 1 for 15, but you hit a home run. That doesn't mean you're safe. But I did see reports from Charlie Goldsmith today about Diaz, and it's not guaranteed he comes up right away. It's hard because Pagan has been doing so well in the closer role that you almost don't want to take him out of it. And like Diaz, he's such a wild card with his command. If he has his command, he can be a top 10 closer in baseball. It's just when he doesn't, he's like bottom 5. But yeah, Pagan, he's doing everything you want him to do. He's getting guys out. He's not striking out guys, but he's getting guys to hit the ball weakly, pop-ups, weak ground balls. Like we saw Saturday, the last out of the game was a short little pop-up to center field. It's what you want. And it's hard because you don't want to take that role from him because I think he's earned it. But Diaz does have the history and the track record of the last 3 years, 2.5 years being a closer. What do you think? Would you move Pagan, or would you keep Diaz in that role when he comes back up?
That's a good question. I'd like to. I'm not sure if they've done the reporting on this or have done the analytics on the fastball for Diaz. There had been some concern that it had been losing velocity over the last couple of years, and that's kind of been a concern. Obviously that's one of those things they point to with closers or, pitchers in general, that they're starting to lose velocity in certain pitches that they may lose effectiveness. And, we touched on talking about Diaz before in the bullpen episode as well. Like, he was kind of effectively wild last year where he had to basically, get guys out after he walked gave it a couple hits, maybe gave up a run and had that 2-run cushion just to get the job done eventually with, kind of just the full maximum, stress levels at a 10 and whatnot. But I think that if his velocity is back up to where it kind of was in 2023, where he's an all-star, I feel like it's his job. You know what I mean? Pagan's a veteran. I think he kind of knows the deal that the all-star closer is, rehabbing. He's getting back to hopefully where he was at least last year, but hopefully, 2 years ago with his all-star campaign. But yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult situation because, there's egos involved as well. Pagan probably really feeling himself, feeling like he's getting the job done. Like, yeah, if Tito is preaching accountability, then it's his job until he isn't, effective enough, or he isn't getting the job done, or he's hopefully not blowing saves. That'd be kind of worst case scenario. But yeah, that's a good question. I think if we're going, on the Tito train, which I think we all joined the Tito train when he got hired, late last year. We gotta get the hot hand and ride the hot hand, because W's are what you need at this level. It's not everybody gets equal playing time. We got to be able to win games, win series. And if Pagan is the guy, Pagan's the guy. And, Diaz has to basically rip that from him if he really wants that job back.
Yeah, and I agree. I guess my main takeaway would be maybe sticking with this closer by committee thing we're doing. And you see Diaz twice a week, you see Pagan twice a week, and maybe sneak in Ashcraft once in a while or Tony Santillan. Because there's one thing about Tony Santillan. For one, he's the oldest 27-year-old I've ever seen in my life, and two, he's I think the broadcast called him the fire hose because he comes in. We saw Saturday, Barlow didn't have his best stuff. He didn't look bad, but he just didn't have his best stuff. And he comes in, an inning in the third, slams the door for Pagan to get the 1-2-3 ninth. And it's so nice to see it, but it's almost like the Cincinnati curse in a way where we'll have an excellent offense and terrible pitching. And then the next year we'll have the worst offense in baseball, but like elite pitching, like 2020, where we had a Cy Young winner, a Cy Young finalist, and two really good pitchers that got us a pretty good return in trades. And we got shut out in the playoffs. And you look at this year's team, and yeah, we're not performing now, but the potential's there to be really, really good, if not top 10 offensive baseball if we can get it going. And our pitching staff is arguably the best in baseball, if not the best in baseball. And you got Hunter Green with a .98 ERA. I think Lodolo's a sub-1 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
Singer is barely over a 2, I think. And if you got Martinez, who I think is going to be the one that gets sent down to the bullpen, I think he goes into the long reliever role, and you bring up Louder. And then if Abbott has to fight it out with Burns or Petty later in the summer or going into August, this rotation gets even better. And it's like, how? If they can stay consistent and healthy, we have the best rotation in baseball. And if the rotation can pick it up, or I'm sorry, the offense can get it going and be what I expect them to be, like, we're a legit division contender, and I think they could hopefully break the curse of winning a playoff series.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm finding myself agreeing a lot with Kerry right now. Like, we got Matty McLean on his way back, Hayes on his way back, and forgot all about Stevenson.
Yeah.
He's still got more offensive production coming. So like. And I think also we're in a good position where we've got guys in a lot of positions that are competing for those spots, which competition will hopefully, bring out the best in everyone, which is ideal. Would you want out of any team? You know what I mean? Whatever level. It could be a little league level. You want kids competing to be the best and earn their spots and all that good stuff. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting spot that we're in. We're 500 right now, and that's where you kind of want to be if you're like the Reds. Not necessarily, you don't need to be like 10 games over 500 going into May and June, right? Like we all been joking, or between you and me and everyone else has been joking, like June is like the best month for the Reds, is where they really hit their stride. So if we're 500 going into June, I think I'm totally fine with it. I have to push. I don't know if I really want us to be like a top 10 offense, because I don't know if we necessarily have that capability yet. Maybe after this season going into the next season, that might be a good goal. If we're at the 15th best offense, like middle of the road is totally fine, especially with the pitching that we've gotten and hopefully we'll continue to get. I think that's a good combination. That's kind of like not necessarily you're going to win 100 games, but you're going to be competitive in every single one. And I think that we have at least the opportunity to be competitive in the division for sure, with the division not being as good as it's. I mean, it's up for grabs. Is basically, you look at the standings now, it's kind of shaking out more or less how it kind of will be going forward. The Cubs are top division, second's the Brewers. Unfortunately, they're still figuring out how to win games. And then we're right there in third with the Cardinals, and like I said, the season over Pirates in taking last place. So, I think the offense hopefully is starting to come online. We're starting to figure out like where we need to be, you know, offensively and which guys in which spots. But yeah, I don't know if it's completely there yet. Which, you know, again, if we're 500 in April, going into May, 500 in May, like that's I think I'll take that for sure. But one thing that has been improving year on year, and something that we've touched on and talked about between, you know, in some of the episodes in the past is the defense for the Reds. That is something that last year everyone's pulling their hair out collectively about the errors, about, you know, just, you know, fielding or throwing to the wrong cutoff man, like the simple stuff of baseball that, you know what I mean, doesn't necessarily show up in the box score all the time, but can win or lose a game. And Charlie Goldsmith had a piece that I was reading talking about how there's one stat that's been interesting for the Reds in the defense. They're shading their infielders more about 53% of the time. And compared to last year, they only shaded their fielders only like 5%, the infielders, I say 5%. So like, I mean, that's a big jump up. At least we were, I guess, talking about how Tito doesn't use analytics, but Freddie Benavidez was quoted by Charlie saying, you know, it's a different type of analytics, and our analytics department is doing great, and our defense is making plays. And we saw even just this weekend with Marte and Espinal making some decent plays. And there was the one Ellie play that I was joking that McCutchen beat out that dribbler. That could have been easily, you know, if Candelario had a better pick, that could have been another great defensive play that would have, you know, basically outs above average. It probably would have been on that stat list. You know what I mean? So early goings, encouraging, especially because the offense hasn't lit the world on fire. We're not scoring 10 runs a game or, you know, 6 or 7 runs a game. But, you know, what are your thoughts on the early goings of the defense?
Yeah, it's good, and it's going to get better when Hayes and McLean come back. Hayes will easily have the strongest arm in the outfield. I think I've heard a few people I like on Chatterbox and stuff. You know, we got a lot of noodle arms in the outfield, as a Trace Fowler quote, and it's true. We don't have any strong arms. Steer would have been one of our strongest arms, but he can't throw anything right now. And I'm really happy with Trevino behind the plate, and Wins is looking pretty good too. Do you dare consider moving Stevenson out from behind the plate? I don't know, but Espinal, I saw a tweet earlier today. It said Espinal must have been watching some Brandon Phillips highlights. You've never seen Espinal play if you're saying that. He's a slick glove, man. He's one of the best defenders you're going to see in the game today. He's awesome. I love Espinal's defense. And I said it last year. He went on a hitting. I don't want to say the streak, but he went on like a hitting barrage, I guess you could say. And he hit like 348 over his last 28 games or something before the end of the season. I think that's a big reason why he got extended for one and came back. And his defense, he's just so good. First base wise, if CES isn't going to hit the ball, it's hard to put him at first, even if he is your best defender. If Steer could throw, I wouldn't mind putting Steer at first, just to bring Hayes back. But at some point, Steer's got to hit too. He's seen the ball better, but he's still not what we expect of him. But yeah, our defense, man. Like, Friedel's really good in the outfield. I like Friedel. Fraley's been, and Dunn kind of made a play today that that was Fraley. Fraley made a play. You look at him and you go, man, how are you not optioned? And Will Benson is still down in AAA with the way you're not hitting, you're not playing good defense. I don't understand that part of it, I guess.
Yeah, it's some good points, and I saw Kerry's question about Candy, possibly him being sent down. I'm not seeing that. I think I don't mind him in the first base role. If we've got Marte at third, I like Marte's range and his strength of his arm way better than Candelario's. Even though we touched on how like Candelario came into this year in the best shape ever. It's like, well, I'm not seeing his best shape ever. At least in a defensive range. You know what I mean? I think he might be a first base option like every day if CES gets optioned down or CES isn't performing. I don't mind. I don't think having him at first base is the worst thing every day. And you're right. They might put Steer there a couple times if he trying to work him back, into defensive shape or whatever. I don't know. You said that he was on a new throwing program, and I'm like,
yeah.
I felt like he was on a throwing program in spring training as well. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Spencer Steer at the moment. Hopefully, I don't see him also being sent down because I don't know if it's like a pride thing. He doesn't want to go to the minors or he doesn't want to get on the IL because he's never been on the IL in his career. His offense is also starting to warm up as well, so it's making it okay to have him on the roster. Heck, if we can, with Hayes coming up, having Spencer Steer just be on the bench. You know what I mean? That we had detailed that the Reds bench is like has no pop. Like if it's like wins coming off the bench, well, we like wins. We're not trying wins equals wins, but like he does not have the pop that Steer has. Espinal is now becoming an everyday guy, but if McLean comes back, he's on the bench and like he doesn't have the biggest pop either. You could obviously have like Marte be on the bench some days, and that'd be good to have off the bench. But in an ideal world, Hazen left. McLean, Espinal at second. You're having Steer or Candy at first. You have Steer at DH or on the bench. That's not bad. Like at least for the depth and having options as pinch hitters late in games. I don't mind that at all. But yeah, Candy's here. I think he's also kind of a de facto captain. I think we haven't figured out, or we probably should do some research, figure out if they've named a captain this year. Obviously, I think Hunter should be one of those in that short list. I wouldn't be surprised if Candelario is one of those guys being a 10-year vet, guy that's been around, done everything. You know what I mean? But Candy's here to stay, at least unless I guess I shouldn't. I got some bad takes in my arsenal already, but as far as I know, I think he'll be here for his 3-year contract, unless something really goes bad, and maybe he goes back to that hitting 100 Candelario that we saw last year. So I don't know. It's good problems to have. Like we're 5-1 with guys coming back, right? Like that's an ideal situation. Reinforcements are on the way because last week at this time we had a 2-5 week, got shut out 3 times in a row, 1-0, and we were like, where are the reinforcements? Where are the reinforcements? And one guy that was a reinforcement that we're going to talk about is William Buchanan Benson, and he got called up last week. Tuesday, I believe, right? And he and Marte got called up, and one of them still in the club, at the big league club, and one of them got optioned down to AAA. I know you're big Benson and Marte guys, and I'm coming around too. These two guys are I think at least they should be the future, hopefully, and the present. But Benson got called up. He started one game, went 0 for 4 against Verlander and company, and struck out 4 times. And then to make way for Abbott, got optioned down on Saturday or Friday. Now he's back in Louisville, crushing it in Louisville the last time I saw. I think he went 4 for 4 with a home run. So, what do you make of the Benson situation? And we can get into Marte in a little bit. What do you think of what's going on here?
I think the biggest problem right now is just him adjusting to major league pitching. I think we kind of saw it against San Francisco. Verlander was giving him pitches to hit, and he was just kind of toying with them. I get it. It's Justin Verlander. He's a Hall of Famer. You go 0 for 3 against him, and then you go 0 for 1 against one of their relievers. I forget who it is. But, none of the pitches were really out of the zone. They were all kind of there. And I think that is probably what they saw as just him not adjusting. And if he can figure that out, he's not going to do what he's doing in AAA. But if he could, hit 250, he's a major contributor to this team. Just his power alone, he's probably the best power hitter in the outfield. And if you could pair him with Hayes when he comes back up, if those two could be your legit corner outfielders, and uh, yeah, he's got stolen base potential. He's such an easy guy to root for. You know, he's a great guy. Everybody loves him except Red social media, and I just don't understand why they don't like him. But I think like what Carrie says in the chat right now, it's a mental problem. I agree. I think it is. I think he's stuck in that AAA Major League 4A spot that everyone talks about, where you're not quite hitting big league pitching, but you're too good for AAA in a way. Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Because I tend to agree. I think it's mental, really. I think he's just trying too hard to say that I belong when we all know he does. It's just he's just got to go out there and relax and do it.
Yeah, he seems to have gotten a short leash. He's still got options, so it's not like this is going to last time we're going to see Benson. But yeah, going back and forth can't be great for your confidence. It can't be great for just trying to get in a rhythm, right? Baseball can be a streaky game, and Benson, unfortunately, is one of the streakiest guys that we've had in the last couple of years, where his highs are really high and his lows are really low. And I don't know. I like the. It'd be interesting to be the fly on the wall and how they made the decision. If it's just he's the unlucky guy to get sent down because he's got options still, or it's a situation where they're trying to hold him accountable, trying to motivate him. I don't know. Maybe trying to make him mad. Like he crushed the ball just yesterday in AAA. So maybe they're trying to like unlock something in him. I don't know, man. It's an interesting situation because this is not the first time he's been sent down to kind of like figure it out, and possibly we'll get another chance, hopefully sooner than later. But I don't know. It's a good question. The relationship between him and Tito may play a factor. He was there in Cleveland for a bit, got sent down and then traded in Cleveland, if I remember right, and that, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some residue, some issues there that may be affecting his, his mental a little bit. But I don't know. I like to think that he's going to have to try to be better than that 4A player, right? Like, because it is a big gulf, right? Like it's tough, coming into, coming into like the beginning of the part of the AAA season where you hit really, really well, high on confidence, killing it, gets the call up when the Reds need those reinforcements. His first chance out there is against Hall of Famer Justin Verlander, who's not a guy that's going to, just throw things over the middle as hard as possible. He's going to be deceptive and, like you said, toy with him. So it's tough because like it's the one chance. And, a bit of a transition. Kind of almost was the same thing that happened with Marte. He came in that game as well as a ghost runner in the 10th inning as his first appearance for 2025. And that felt like, what? Okay, we're going to use him for that. Like, I get he's got the 3 steals, in the minors, his first week of the minors for the bats. But, like, I don't – when I think, ghost runner, I'm thinking, like, I don't know, Hurtabees, Blake Dunn, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be. But, like, he did get his chance this weekend against the Pirates, and I think Marte took full advantage of it. He didn't necessarily, go 4 for 4 every game, but he showed that he is a major leaguer still and can help this Reds team. So what are your thoughts about Marte?
Yeah, that play he made diving towards the third baseline, that saved a double and potentially a run. And he made some good throws. 2023, he was really good defensively. I had posted in a Locked On Reds comment thread on one of their lives. It was Steve Offenbaker was hosting a live, and I posed a question. I said, "Do you think Noelvi Marte can win a Gold Glove?" And he said, "Yeah." And I agree. I think he could. It's just, I think the mental problem of the whole season last year, where you get hurt in the Winter League, and who knows if he made the decision or his trainer made the decision or both of them made the decision to use something to get right, and he got caught. And then you get stuck in that hole where he probably knew it, but did that define him as a player? And I think him being relatively good friends with Fernando Tatis Jr. said, you got to get past it. You got to move on. You got to understand that was a mistake. You're better than that. And I think reflecting, playing terribly last year, knowing that your job's not secure, your place on this organization's not secure. To be frankly, like they could trade him if they wanted to. And I think them sticking with him is a real good sign that they really believe in him still. And yeah, Marte, I think he's got the highest ceiling out of everybody on this team. I'd say even including Ellie to a degree, just because Ellie's so flash in the pan, hot, that Marte could be your consistent hit, field, run, where Ellie's got to, do Ellie things, which I love. Everybody loves. So that's why he's Ellie De La Cruz. But yeah, like Marte to me, his defense, I see a lot of Manny Machado in his game. I don't think he's going to hit the home runs that Machado hits, but yeah, he's just a really solid player that if he puts it together, I really love his game, and I'm really glad that he got a chance. Now he's probably going to get sent back down, which is fine. I'd hope he doesn't, just because I think he's better defensively than Candelario. Unless Espinal's going to be your third baseman, which I'm fine with. Yeah, it's just they got some decisions to make, and I think as long as Marte can just play, I don't want him on the bench. If you're not going to play him, send him back down. I guess that's just my main takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's got all the tools. I think he's displaying them in AAA for sure. Yeah, it's kind of, so far so good, at least for Marte, and showing what he can do. And I personally believe, I don't think Candelario would get the pick that he got at third base. I think that's going down the line, like you said, for a triple if Candelario is playing third at that point in time. So I would favor, Marte with his improved defense and hopefully getting his, hitting online as well this season to really kind of solidify himself, hopefully as that everyday third baseman. And I'm with Carey again as well, with talking about how Tito's going to give him his chance. Like Marte's what, 22, 20?
Yeah.
And Benson 24, 25. Like they're still really young guys. And obviously we would like them to figure it out sooner than later for the best benefit of the club. You know what I mean? Like, but we're talking about like, good problems, having a bunch of guys fighting for positions, having a bunch of guys that, can hopefully do it at the major league level and get victories for him. I like to think that Marte, proved his worth this weekend, and I hope that Benson will get his chance sooner than later.
Yeah, I don't think it was really, I guess, life's not fair, but it wasn't really fair that your one chance to prove something for Will Benson was to go face a Hall of Fame pitcher, go 0 for 3 against him with 3 strikeouts, and then have to adjust to a pretty decent reliever too, and just so happen to strike out. I guess that's just my main takeaway from that with Will.
Yeah, for sure. You did mention Ellie doing Ellie things, and lucky for us, both of us,
yes,
and our families, our kids, and your wife, we got to experience Ellie doing Ellie things in person on Saturday. And that was an experience just in itself. Saturday, Ricky and I, my wife's a UC grad, so it was I can't do it. Bearcats at the ballpark night, and we got these nice fresh hats for Go Bearcats. It's not necessarily a Bearcat show, but my wife's a alum, so we got to go be a part of that. And Saturday the weather turned out fantastic. Oh, yes, that also happened. We can talk about that for sure if you want to get into some takes about ballpark bobblehead scavenging and reselling and stuff like that. I feel like I spent I should have wrote them all down. I had so many takes about all sorts of things that happened that day. But anyway, the point being, it was great weather. It was awesome. Yes, Carrie, it was Ellie bobblehead night, and on Ellie bobblehead night, of all things, we got a grand slam from the man himself. What were some quick takeaways or some thoughts that you had about Ellie and or the game yesterday?
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz. That's all I got to say. I think my famous line on Twitter is "I love God, my family, and Ellie De La Cruz," and I stand by it. I'm so glad we're so fortunate that we get to witness him become this player that he is, and doing what he did right-handed. There were so many people calling for him to, go full-time left-handed, and I think, what if they would have told that to Pete Rose back in the day? Would he have been the hit king? It's let the kid play. He's good at it, and so what if his splits aren't perfect? Nobody's are. If he faces lefties left-handed, it probably looks worse, to be honest. And the energy at the ballpark, like I wasn't in my seat when he hit the grand slam. I was down with the kids in the play area, but they had the monitor on right there. And when you heard the crack of the bat, man, that was one of the loudest, I'd say top 5 loudest environments for a Reds game I've been a part of. With number 1 being Joey Votto's first career walk-off home run back in 2010. That was electric. But I mean, it was to do it on your bobblehead day. That's you put butts in the seats and then you perform. That's Bob Castellini's dream right there.
Yeah, for sure. There was a huge crowd in the stadium. And I joked with you, if the Castellinis want a new business plan to get people to come to the game, just make every home game an Ellie bobblehead day. And there'll be 30,000 fans every single time. And then we might have enough money to get ourselves like a Luis Robert or some other outfielder free agent. I don't know. I'm not trying to make Castellinis rich, but if anything, it would be interesting. And Kerry points out he also had a second chance at a grand slam in that same game. That I think he grounded out for that one. Unfortunately, It wasn't as exciting. The crowd was going nuts. For the grand slam, the way I read it, and Tommy Pham must have misread it because he kind of stopped dead in his tracks. He didn't just do the thing where he just watches it go over his head. He kind of stopped in his tracks and then started to track the ball. I thought it was going to be a pop-up for, like, you know what I mean? Like one of those disappointing, like, oh, it's almost there right at the track, those kind of situations. But it kept carrying. Luckily, I think Ellie hit it high enough in the air that the Cincinnati winds just kind of kept it carrying all the way into like the 6th row of the outfield. So like that was just special. And he's such a special player, especially, like to do it with like, switch hitting, he can do it all. And I guess, Cincinnati is a great place for him to basically grow and excel. Like, you know what I mean? Like if he like was on like a bigger market team, he might be told just to hit left-handed because they just need that. They don't need him to hit, switch hitter. But there were some other things that happened throughout the game. There was a great Andrew Abbott performance, and here's a hot take. Let's start getting hot takes. I think that baseball is too fast. I had so many times where I was looking up and it's already like 2 outs, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even see the first out. Like, where do we? Like, it just kept going, and it's good for, I guess, television because, like, on TV, you got the TV on. Maybe you're doing dishes, or maybe you're just sitting around with the kids or whatever, your wife, and maybe it's good for a television product to kind of keep it moving, and then you go from the commercial straight to the game and all that. But in the stadium, I think I kind of want it to slow down a bit, just so I can enjoy like the moments, kind of soak them in. Because like I think it was like the 7th inning, and I'm like, we're doing the 7th inning stretch already. It's like an hour and a half into the game. And like, I mean, it's good, I guess, also on this level because having little kids, you're not staying up till 10, 11 p.m. at the ballpark. And if it goes to extra innings, then you're just like, forget this. I got to school tomorrow, whatever. So I guess on that level, it's good. But yeah, like, also it should be just an indication of how well Abbott was pitching, right? Like he was dealing so well that it was just going for him. And I think he went 6 innings or whatnot. So he did his part coming up, being recalled from AAA after a little rehab start. rehab stint, and yeah, it was just great to see that the Reds pitching. It's just going to keep on going. Like, if it's not Green or Lodolo or Singer, you got to deal with Andrew Abbott. You got to deal with Nick Martinez. You got to deal with, some other the guys that we profiled that are coming up through the ranks in the minors, and we'll talk about a little bit later. But like, I think Clay Stoden talked about it as well. Like they've been having a philosophy of drafting first round or high round starting pitching, and now we're starting to see it come to the major leagues. We're starting to see it really flourish, and you love to see it. You love to see when the other team's scoring 0 runs, right? You love to see when your team's hitting grand slams. So, any other thoughts or things on the game?
I guess going back to the bobblehead attendance thing is, I got there fairly early. I probably got there about 10 till 4. Just I told the wife, I said, we got to go. We got to get there if we're going to have any chance. And there was a line from the Reds Hall of Fame gate going down the banks, and it was like almost to Yard House. I said, surely these guys are just waiting in line for a beer, right? So I walked my way around, and I went over to Gate B, and I probably cut in front of like 15,000 people. And by the time I get there, we're fairly close to the walk-up line, and there may have been 300 bobbleheads left on the pallet, and we got in. Gates opened at 5:10. We got in 5:45. So at 40 minutes, and they were almost gone. That's wild.
Yeah. Line etiquette might be a thing that we need to teach Cincinnati fans, because I think I actually got in the season ticket holder line with my kids and soon was realizing, oh wait, this is not us. And when we got closer, like people were forming new lines out of nowhere. And I don't know. It was also kind of awkward because we went through the front gates, gate A, and there was just a bunch of people up above taking pictures of all us down below. I'm like, I feel like I'm like in a zoo where people are just like walking at, look at all these crazy people. They're standing in line and they don't even know the bobbleheads are all gone, which they were. And ironically, that was the second lesson in patience that I had to learn that day. That day earlier, we did an Easter egg hunt with my kids around where we live. And unfortunately, chaos broke out. They didn't necessarily listen to the organizers, and all these kids, just rushed the field, and nothing was left for a lot of kids, my kids included. But I was like, hey, we gotta be patient. We gotta listen to the rules. Unfortunately, if there's some that don't, it happens. But we can still be, thankful for what we get. And lo and behold, same thing with bobbleheads, right? You sometimes just got to be thankful that you get to see the Redlegs win. We did get these sweet hats,
Yeah.
So go UC. And they got a bunch of cheering stuff from the UC alumni stuff, which was great for the kids because my kids love trinkets like that just to entertain themselves while the game's going on, because they're not the biggest baseball fans, but they don't mind coming occasionally. But any other thoughts or takes on baseball or Saturday's baseball?
Yeah, I'll say that me cutting wasn't cutting for say. I wasn't going to go in through the same gate that everybody else was going to go in, and I found 2 guys that actually drove down from Chicago to get the bobblehead. They were too young, probably early 20s, and they were like, "Yeah, we drove all the way to Chicago just to get this bobblehead, but we're going to stay to watch the game too." I was like, "Well, that's good," because there was people. We were still waiting to move. You saw people coming back with like handfuls of bobbleheads. So I was just like, man. And then you go on eBay and you see them, like, we got a set, a left and a right-handed set for $500. It's like, I'll just trade somebody a left for a right if they want to. So if anybody out there got a right-handed LE bobblehead and wants to switch for a left, DM me on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. There was a ton of that kind of like calling out people. They were taking pictures like at the game of the bobblehead, posting it and saying all this stuff. It's like, I don't know. That reminds me of one time. This was back in the before times where the Reds were terrible. In 2016, I think was the dual bobblehead of Ken Griffey Jr. And this is 16, and it wasn't. I think he went into the Reds Hall of Fame at that time or something like that. There was like literally a guy would like scan his ticket, walk around, come back out, scan another ticket, like that. But at that point, like there was like 10,000 people going to the game anyway, so it wasn't. It's still kind of it's a bit icky, I guess, but it's kind of weird to be witness of that. I like to think a lot of people stayed and watched the game. It felt like the stadium was pretty full. I think 32,000 or so announced attendance officially. So yeah, the crowd was into the game. It was a good game, and I think we came out with a series win and then a sweep on Sunday with Hunter Green. And speaking of Hunter Green, we're going to be talking about our Red of the Week. And the Red of the Week is just the player of the week that we picked. And for my guy, just speaking about Hunter Green, he had two spectacular outings. First one out in San Francisco where he nearly had the complete game. It would have been a shutout, right? Or a complete game. Yeah, he went 8 2/3 innings, and it was a weird stat. He was like Hunter Green was the first Reds pitcher since Brett Tomko in 1999 to record 26 outs without allowing a run and was not able to finish the complete game shutout. So weird stat for that to have that happen, but it definitely was kind of weird to have him go that far. But at the same time, I think Tito had said he wanted him to like finish the game. It was his gut feeling, but he kind of went against it because the game was still possibly in the balance. It was 2-0 win, so it was like, you know what I mean? Like I get it. We got the job done. I think Centillion came in, got the last out, right? So got the W, got the series win in San Francisco. That Tito decision luckily did not blow up in his face, but and then Sunday. Just Sunday. And the one thing I'm most impressed about with Hunter Green winning on Sunday is that going into I think this Sunday game, including all the Sundays of last year for the Reds, they were like 9-22 on Sunday games. So thank you to Hunter for winning our 10th Sunday game in the last 2 years, which is pretty abysmal, but hopefully, maybe Hunter will can get that Sunday start more often than not, and then we'll have a real good chance of being competitive on the either be the rubber match or a series sweep game. But for you, who was your Red of the Week?
I might do something unprecedented here and do a co-player of the week here. I was just digging around on Santiago Espinal's stats, and he's hitting 292 over his last 7 games with 7 hits, and it's not giving me RBIs, but he's had some pretty clutch RBIs too. I guess season total is he's got, I don't know if I believe it's not updated. It just says 2 RBIs. He had 2 today, so 4 RBIs, pretty clutch. And I'm going to go with him, and I'm going to go with Graham Ashcraft as well, because Graham went into this role, and it was kind of how's he going to do? He's kind of hit and miss as a starter. A lot of great relievers are failed starters. Andrew Chafin wears a shirt that says failed starter. So Ashcraft not allowing a run all season so far, it's huge. So yeah, I'm going to go Red Hot Red player of the week. I'm going to go Santiago Espinal and Graham Ashcraft.
Yeah, both very valid of having a decent week. Tito's guy, Espinal, and Ashcraft, I think is your guy. You predicted him to be a potential future closer, and if he's the eighth inning guy, even better. Like setting up the close, setting up the win. That'd be awesome. Shout out to Carrie. She's been blowing up her chat, and it's been great. We really appreciate her support. Everyone's support watching on Twitter, X, Facebook, wherever you found us. This is our first foray into doing Reds content. We hope to bring it all season long on Sunday night, 8 p.m. live. So check us out. Tell a friend, suggest a friend, like, subscribe, do all those good things. We're really appreciative of all the support so far. Thank you to Doug and Jordan as well, giving us this Ohio Sports Talk platform to come to you guys every week, recapping your Redlegs week. And yeah, speaking of Reds community, we have hopefully our rising segment that hopefully will break through and everyone's gonna love and get behind, and hopefully we'll have a good laugh, because we're not trying to call people out or try to bully anybody or dox them or anything like that. But this is the time of the week that we found, or Ricky has found the Reds comment of the week, or Reds Facebook comment of the week, because unfortunately Reds Facebook can be a bit toxic, more than Reds Twitter somehow. Even though Twitter can be real, or X or whatever is pretty toxic, somehow Reds Facebook can be even way off the chain. But yeah, Ricky, go ahead with the Reds comment of the week.
Happy that De La Cruz hit a grand slam today, but happy the Reds won. But damn, dude, for the last 10 games, he is now 6 for 39. 6 for 39. I cannot celebrate him hitting a homer because it's just encouraged the stupid behavior he has to only swing for the fence. The Reds need this kid to get better at hits. Let the homers come naturally. We aren't playing home run derby every game. And if he can't stop swinging for the fence, sit his ass on the bench.
Yeah, I guess we're no longer a kid show. But yeah, oh my. Yeah, so much to talk about here, Ricky. What are your first initial thoughts about this comment from Facebook?
Are you? Tell me you don't know ball without telling me you don't know ball.
That's good.
I don't think he swings for the fence every single play. Everybody with that kind of power wants to hit a home run, but he's got a pretty level swing compared to most power hitters that I've seen. And he's also a switch hitter. He's got more mechanics. He's 6'6". He's got a lot of moving parts. But to say this, I was scrolling through, and shout out the Facebook group Reds 4192. They are full of people, and I won't name names. I'm not about that. But if you want your name on it, if you want to own it, comment, whatever, post show. But he was a slow starter last year in April. He didn't play well, and it was around the end of April. It was like around the 21st, 22nd, that Angels series, he really started to heat up, and he became the Reds' best hitter for quite a while last year. And granted, we weren't the best offense last year either, but Ellie's got the potential to hit close to 300, 30 home runs, 70 stolen bases, and 100 RBIs. Like, he's just got that potential. And I'm at a loss for words. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm not sure what the home run derby is, but I don't think I don't think Elliot will ever participate in that. At least far
must
as
have been what he was drinking, typing up that comment.
No comment on that, but I think we're also with the new rule changes. The banning of shifts. I think the launch angle era is starting to come to kind of a close. There's obviously guys that will be hitting for the fences, and yeah, Carey's right. It's Ellie has a lot more to his game. He's not always swinging for the fence. He wants to get on base so he can steal bags. Like, if anything, he's kind of a guy that he'll take it if it's up in the zone. He'll take it, but like, he wants to get on base, steal bases. That's been more of his foray than a home run hitter. If anything, it's kind of he might have kind of like a Barry Bonds type of not sans steroids, but like start off as like a base stealer, a 33. 30 and 30 guy, 40-40 guy maybe, and then, develop into a power hitter later when the legs go and he's not stealing as many bags, that kind of thing. Not steroids. I'm not saying that. But anyway, I think that's all I got. I can't imagine what this guy thinks of Jamer Candelario.
He probably loves him. I was thinking, I totally off script, but I like your comp to Barry Bonds just because I do see it from if you look at Bonds from 86 to 97. Just I mean, what do you have? 500 stolen bases, 500 home runs, 500 stolen bases. That's Ellie's ceiling. Like he could do that. Ellie could easily, I don't want to say easily, he's got the potential to be a 500 home run player, especially if he plays his career in Cincinnati. Like that, we all hope for that, fingers crossed. But he could be that next Hall of Fame potential guy that hit 500 home runs, 500 stolen bases, 1,000 RBI, 2,000, whatever. We're just so lucky to have him. And you take the good with the bad with anybody, but I take a little bit more of the bad with Ellie because I know what he can do when he's on. And he hasn't had one yet, but when he gets hot, he's going to get hot. And I don't know how Red's social media is going to take that when he gets, maybe he goes 20 for 35 with 8 home runs or something and goes on a tear stealing bases because he's really been kind of leashed so far this season on stolen bases. It's coming. It's going to happen. He might have a game where he steals 5. It's just you pick your spots, and I think Francona is really working with him on that. But yeah, let the kid play. He's 22, 23 years old. He's only going to get better. And he's going to be better for quite some time. And I just think we're really, really happy to have him. I am especially.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, hopefully he's a Cincinnati Red for life. Clay Snowden wasn't terribly too high on that idea, given the Castellini's track record of not dealing or putting out really big contracts. But we're not there yet. Not even there to the arbitration years. Luckily, got the CBA on the horizon as well. So hopefully more positive news down the pipe than negative news. But speaking of guys that are trying to prove themselves as well, moving on to the next segment, we got our minor league wrap up. 3 up, 3 down. This is where we profile 3 guys from our minor league system that are doing well and 3 guys that are kind of struggling, and hopefully keeping an eye on them so that they can hopefully get through those slumps. You know what I mean? That's what we talk about with the minors. Like there's going to be guys that are figuring out, maybe changing their pitching style. Like Connor Phillips went down to the minors, totally changed his pitching style. And then, like other guys like Benson and Marte are trying to figure out their hitting and stuff like that in the minors. So, that's what the minors are for, is to get better. We're not here to win minor league championships, right? So the first guys that are up, the AAA guy that's up is Tyler Callahan. He had a pretty decent week, 5 for 18 this week with a double, home run, 4 RBIs, and a stolen base. He had a really good game where I think he went 3 for 4 and won the game for the Louisville Bats this week. Really like stuff out of him because he's also got that flexibility to play second and outfield, kind of a Gavin Lux prototype of sort, or carbon copy of sorts. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he's looked at least a 40-man call up in September to get a look at him to figure out what his future looks like as a Red. Another guy, main man in the middle, guy that Ricky's got a lot of love for, guy that had a great Saturday as well. Unfortunately, the grand salami for Ellie overshadowed Mr. Sal Stewart's grand salami, who actually did it in the bottom of the 9th as a walk-off.
Yeah.
Sal Stewart went 7 for 19, 5 RBIs, 3 doubles, and like I said, game-winning grand slam on Saturday, a part of a doubleheader of a makeup because they had some bad weather on Thursday and their game got postponed. But Sal Stewart looking fantastic, which is great. Another guy, again, like – keep referencing Clay, but Clay isn't too high on our depth for hitting, at least in the outfield for our minor league system. So I'm not saying Sal Stewart is a future outfielder or whatnot, but he's got a bat. And if he could be put somewhere, wherever the Reds may need him, I don't even know, man. 2025 might be his year where we see him for a stint or so, or 40-man, roster in September. Who knows? But yeah, he's definitely one of the good ones to keep an eye on. And for Single A Dayton, the starter Luke Hayden went 5 innings, 1 hit ball, 0 earned runs, and 5 strikeouts. And this guy was a 2024 draft pick for the Reds in the 8th round. So like, keep an eye on Mr. Hayden. You never know. Like we always talk about the first round guys, and obviously those guys have a lot more. I don't know, resume, a lot more maybe expectations around them. But an 8th round pick, hey, we might see this guy up in Double A this year and maybe Triple A the next. I think he's only 20 years old or something like that. So
22.
He's 22, so he's still got a lot ahead of him. And I guess the unfortunate part for Mr. Luke Hayden is that we've already got a bunch of really good starting pitching prospects. So he might have to get in the back of the line of that and work his way up. But really good stuff there at Single A Dayton for Luke Hayden. Now, unfortunately, or I guess, Ricky, any thoughts on these 3 guys or any other guys you want to profile?
Yeah, I guess well, I'm looking at Luke Hayden right now. He pitched the other night. He had 5 innings, 5 strikeouts. If he can perform, if he could crack like the top 30 on the prospect list, he could be a very good trade asset to get us an outfielder. Sal Stewart, what do you say? He's phenomenal. He's probably the best hitter overall in the organization. And he's athletic enough. I think if you had to, I'm not – we know how it went with Nick Senzel, but if you had to, he could be a pretty good corner outfielder. And – yeah, and then I'm a huge, I guess you could say I'm a Sal Stewart stan at this point, just because I'm so high on his game. And it's unfortunate with the Cam Collier injury that we don't get to see him together, because I think those two complement each other. But yeah, I mean, all these guys are great players, and there's a chance we can see 2 of them on the Reds this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the 3 guys that kind of struggled this week, Single A Daytona Tortugas, Alfredo Dono, one of the top, prospects, catching prospects for the Reds. He went 3 for 15 this week with only a double and RBI. Not necessarily the best week for him. And Double A Jay Allen the second, 1 for 15, an RBI and 8 strikeouts. A guy that was great in Dayton last year, got the call up to Chattanooga. So you like to see him kind of work through this rut. Hopefully we'll be profiling him on the guys that are 3 up, this year, at least sooner than later. And Carson Spires, unfortunately, the guy sent down when Benson and Marte got called up. His first start out for the Bats did not go so great. He went 6 innings, gave up 7 hits and 5 earned runs. So, he may be working on some different stuff. Maybe just, the guys were seeing the pitches well out of his hands. You hopefully think that he'll get back on track sooner than later and be another guy that can be in that rotation or be a call-up spot start if need be, but not necessarily the greatest week for Mr. Spires. Any thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I was really high on Jay Allen. I'm starting to see some bust. And granted, he was a comp pick in 2021. He's not Austin Hendrick bad, but he's pretty close, like batting average wise. But I don't think Duno is going to be on this list for long. I just think his ceiling's too high, and he really only had his first full season catching last year, and the year before he had the elbow injury, and he's too good to really stick on that list for too long. But Jay Allen, I love the guy. I think he's a great person. I know Greg from Reds Daily's had him on for an interview before, and he seems like such a likable guy. But to be in your 4th season in the organization, you're in Double A right now, like along with Austin Hendrick, is just It's hard because you need outfielders, and it seems like none of our outfielders have developed. And I was really, really high on Austin Hendrick. I still am to a degree. I at some point you gotta cut bait, and for Jay Allen to not really put it together, he's had some injuries that really kind of I think derailed him to a degree. But yeah, what are your thoughts? I know you were a pretty big Jay Allen fan.
Yeah, I think that Jalen's mom follows Greg on Twitter. Like he's really close with some of these guys' families. But yeah, I saw him in Dayton a couple times last year. He looked great. He had some, pretty good, spectacular outfield. Like he's a pretty good defensive outfielder. His hitting, I think, is the thing that maybe holding him back because he's a really good athlete. He can cover all parts of the field. I think he played center and left and right. Like he could be any position really want him. Yeah, I think just getting his hitting online is getting that going. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe it's just he's seeing different pitching at AA than he did down in Dayton. But yeah, I really hope that he's going to be on the 3-up list sooner than later because love to see him. I think Austin Hendrick has had his ups and downs and mostly downs lately, and I like to think that those two guys, can improve the depth in the minors with, some depth because. We've beat a dead horse about this, but the Reds outfield is hurting. It's hurting at least. It hopefully Hayes can remedy some of that, but and hopefully a healthy Spencer Steer can remedy that. But right now, not so great. But alas, 5-1 this week. Positives, right? And coming up this week, we've got 2 big series: homestand and I believe the away stand that we're going to be on the weekend to the Orioles. A homestand coming up. I think both of these series are really tough. The Mariners are not necessarily playing great baseball right now. I think they're like 5-8 or something like that. Last time I checked, and the Orioles like 6-8. But they're still 2 pretty good ball clubs. That I think last year the Orioles won 100 games, right? Like they're pretty decent, and Seattle's got pretty decent, but they're traveling to us, so that's maybe the advantage. If the Reds can get 2 out of 3 here, I think they're in a good spot. Going to Baltimore might be a different proposition. But what are your thoughts about the upcoming series with the Mariners and the O's?
Yeah, I'm trying to see who their starter is, if they've announced it yet. Luis Castillo versus Nick Lodolo.
Yeah,
so that's a good one. Is that his second time back at the ballpark since then?
I think so. I forget, it was 2023 maybe or something like that. He came back and faced. Usually they go every other with some of these West Coast teams, and whatnot, or at least against AL teams. They'll go like every other year.
Yeah. And Seattle won the day. They beat Texas. It's going to be a good series. Seattle's right where we are. They're 8-8 also. Yeah, so. And Texas is 9-7, so they beat a pretty good team in Texas, and we know how Texas is. We struggled against them 2 out of 3 games, but I like our chances, especially if our pitching can continue. Which I think I'm going to say this the rest of the season until I'm proven otherwise. I don't want to, knock on wood. But it's Seattle. I think. You got Julio Rodriguez. He's one of the best players in baseball, and it's kind of what do you call it? A coming home game, but it's our home game for Noelvi Marte if he's going to play because we acquired him in the Castillo trade.
Yeah.
So I would like to see Marte start at third and hit a home run off of him, just to say it happened.
Just to see the trade in real life, like happen and come together. Yeah, no, that'd be great. Yeah, it says that the Orioles are 6-9, but I think they're better than that record. If we get 2 out of 3, because the Mariners are traveling from the West Coast to play against us, I think hopefully that would be a great series. Orioles, yeah, I don't know. I guess the mantra, especially on these away trips, is don't get swept. Don't get swept on the road. 1 out of 3 is, I know it's kind of not a big bar, but it definitely is better than getting swept. And you'd like to go 3-3 on the week rather than like a 2-4 or, God forbid, a 1-5.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like our prove it. What do you want to call it? Not series, but stand, I guess, is going at home, playing a pretty decent Seattle team with their ace going, our former ace going, and a Baltimore team that's just not kind of in our boat where their offense hasn't figured it out yet. And like, it's their play, they got way too many good players to be this bad all season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're going to break out. Hopefully it's not against us. And I'll just leave it at that. Hopefully we go out and we win, what do you say, 3 out of 6, call it a split for the week.
Yeah. 3-3 sounds good. It doesn't sound necessarily positive, but I mean, like, they're 2 good ball clubs. And then after these series, it starts to get a little bit easier playing the Marlins and like the Rockies. So if you go 3-3 or 11-11 by next week when we're doing this again at 8:00, thank you for all that tuned in. Carrie, thank you so much. She's been like praising us so much. Like, I think she's our biggest fan, outside of maybe our parents and our spouses or whatnot. And also it looks like we're getting some, good views on Facebook and X and all that good stuff. So thank you for all tuning in. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, this next episode in a week will be still positive and not wondering what Tito's doing or anything like that. We're going to be in some, 11-11, sounds like we're being pessimistic, but like if we're 500 at the end of May or end of April going into May, that's the bats will start heating up. Or hopefully continue to get great pitching, but I don't know. Any other last thoughts before we sign off, Rick?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think 11-11 doesn't sound great, but from where we were just a series and a half ago, it's a win. And I just think if we can, I don't want to say overachieve, but if we can maybe sneak out 4-2, yeah, that really, I'm happy. I think Reds fans should be happy because it's April. It's to have. I think I saw on Chatterbox on Off the Bench. I think Reed was talking one time, or it might have been Justin Kenner. But if you go historically over the last, I want to say 20 years, maybe longer, the Reds don't have a winning record in any month except for May.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you do with that? It's hard. You just want to see this team win so bad as Reds fans, and I'm not I know you have been, but I'm almost there with the sell the team. Just at the end of the day, it takes money, and you got to have players. And like Clay said in our previous interview, that if you're not going to put money out for your starting pitching, you're going to use draft capital on them. You got to spend on the offense, and they're just not doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 11-11 sounds great. It sounds weird to root for a 500 team, but yeah, it's definitely. We were 3-7 this time last week, so like to be 11-11 means you were 8-4 for the last 2 weeks, and that's winning baseball. You want that. It keeps you competitive, all that good stuff. But yeah, Ricky, are you doing any pre-games this week coming up?
I have Friday. Me and Mike will be on the pregame at Chatterbox. I believe it's the Baltimore game, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like doing that along with this. Just I think it keeps me sharp on both aspects of it. I gotta thank God I'm not the host on either one of these. If I get the names mixed up, it'd be a bad look for both parties.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, a recap article coming out on We Like Sports of the Pirates series. I'll probably have that out tomorrow morning, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Trying to work a full-time job, be a parent, and do 2 podcasts and write articles at the same time. So, what about you? You got anything coming out on Substack or anything?
Yeah, I've been watching FC Cincinnati again, because they've on a 3-game winning streak, so they're decent to watch now. They're not struggling, even though they traded away Luciano Acosta, their 2023 MLS MVP. Look forward to that. But also, yeah, we got Doug and Jordan coming out on Monday, Ohio Sports Talk, 9 p.m. Check them out. They're Mondays and Thursdays, usually at 9 p.m. Also, we got upcoming interview. Look out for that with a Mr. Radio professional Elliot Rearing, Mr. Chatterbox, unserious person, Elliot Rearing coming out soon. The Zebra, yeah. I was trying to get to his nickname. I forgot. Yeah, check that out. We really appreciate all the support. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We'll be back live at Sunday at 8 p.m. So until then, Ricky, go Reds.
Go Reds.
We're the Reds. Red hot.